Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Fraternity Foodie. We call this Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like good food that brings people together. I am your host, Mike Ialon with Greek University. Today, we have an incredible guest on our show. His name is Michael Angelo Caruso. He is a dynamite communication consultant. He's an author and he's a speaker. We've been friends for a long time, so I am so excited, Michael, to have you on the show with us today. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure. It's great to be with you. What have you got to eat?
Right now I have nothing, but we are going to talk about where you like to eat in Michigan because I am very curious about that. We're going to get to that at the end of the interview. Let's get right into some of these questions because I just can't wait to share you with my audience. I know you are just a wealth of information, and our audience is typically college students. Our audience is typically higher ed professionals. I think you have so much to share with these individuals. So I just can't wait to get to the questions, to be quite honest with you. So let's start from the top. You have delivered over 2,000 presentations and keynote speeches on 5 different continents and also in 49 out of 50 states. That is just incredible. So my first question is, what state are you missing? So that way my audience can book you in that last state. And second, how did this public speaking career of yours begin?
Well, the state that I haven't spoken in yet is Hawaii. And I've been there twice, but never spoken there. I hope to remedy that in June.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Where I'm attending an event and it looks pretty good that I'll be on stage there. So that'll be a little check mark bucket list thing. Thank you very much. Your second question had to do with how I got into this.
Yeah.
I have a performance stripe, Mike. I came up through the music business and I toured the country on the college circuit, actually, in a rock band called the Caruso Brothers. We were 4 brothers, and I think we might have been the first boy band. We opened for acts like Rick Springfield, Corey Hart, Joan Jett, UB40, and just had a blast touring the country with my brothers. And we learned, I think, how to be appealing in 3 minutes, because that's the length of an average pop song. Mm. And so if you could get people's attention in 3 minutes, get them to move to the dance floor or do something that resembled having fun, club owners, universities would have you back. And then I didn't know it at the time, but it was boot camp for becoming a speaker later on. It's exactly the same formula these days. How can I capture people's attention just with a microphone in the front of the room and hold it and then get rebooked? And things have worked out pretty good.
That's fascinating. There might be some higher ed administrators that actually recognize you now that you've said that, that are listening today. So that's really, really interesting. And, you know, I think that public speaking is such a critical skill that college students and also new professionals should be developing on a regular basis. It's critical, even if you're not in sales, you need to know this particular skill. But the problem is that most people tend to avoid those situations, I'm talking about public speaking, if at all possible. So in your opinion, what are 5 steps that somebody listening to this podcast now, what are 5 steps they can take to make an amazing presentation?
All right, so let me think this through. 5 steps. All right, I think the first one would be that you believe in yourself. You have to think that your message is worthwhile, that you have something to share. You know, I do an online coaching program called Present Like a Pro, and I teach people how to do this. And one of the early things I find out about almost everybody is that they have self-esteem issues, or what are more commonly called confidence issues. And if you feel self-doubt when you get in front of a group, it just bleeds out of your pores, you know? And it's like blood in the water. The audience can smell that you don't even believe your own stuff. And then it becomes really hard to get them to honor your call to action, or what we call in the business a CTA. So I think believing in yourself is really a key step. The second thing is to know your audience. Very important to know who you're talking to. I know that it's very common today. We live in a very politically correct, sensitized society that everybody thinks that we're all the same and you need to treat everybody exactly the same. I don't think bigger lie has ever been told. I think everybody is different. I think everybody likes to be treated special. And to the extent that you can know that your audience is special and know that that guy third from the left in the second row is special, he wants you to speak to him more than he wants you to speak to the group. I think that's key. Number 3, I think that you should know your content. It sounds like, you know, these TED Talks, they're about 18 minutes long. I'm going to go to TEDx Detroit tomorrow. They seem like these people are just getting up and winging it. But all TED Talks are very heavily rehearsed. I mean, you have to pass an audition process just to get the TED gig. And then you're rehearsed separately from the cameras. You're rehearsed once you get in front of the cameras. And they take these presentations very seriously. So I think to know your content is extremely important. Nobody wings it. Very, very few people have that ability to just wing it like that. You asked for 5 steps. We're on number 4. The first one is to believe in yourself. The second one is to know the audience. The second one is to know your content. I think the fourth one is to have a call to action, or what we call in the business a CTA. The call to action is everything in the presentation is built around the CTA. You wouldn't actually go onto the stage, or what we call in the business the platform, unless you were going to ask the audience to do something. Now, it doesn't have to be transactional. It doesn't have to be about buying your book or engaging your service. It could be a safety presentation. So the call to action is don't get hurt, right? Pretty simple. But I think every good presentation has a call to action from the speaker or presenter. And then finally, if you're dealing from a platform, some sort of a respected place of integrity, that you're an established author, or that you are a service provider, or that you're a do-gooder, and I say that without the tongue in my cheek, that it means more to people if you're coming from a platform, because now you're not just doing a drive-by. This is a thing, right? And you want people to be part of something bigger. In my case, when I'm teaching presentation skills, I want people to be part of this elite cadre of professional speakers who are dealing from integrity and helping the world, you know, changing the world one presentation at a time. So I think those 5 things are extremely important if you're going to bang it in the presentation world.
That's incredible. That advice is worth a fortune right there. So whoever's listening, you just got a crash course from one of the best in the business. That is unbelievable. So let's talk a little bit more about an elevator pitch. I know this is something that you spend some time with a lot of clients, and you talk about this. What's the best way to develop an effective elevator pitch? It could be for somebody that's looking to start a new career, so a new college graduate. It could be somebody that's looking to get a new job. Maybe they're ready to switch, or maybe they want to pitch a new business. It could be a new product or a new service. How can they develop an effective elevator pitch?
Well, you list some great examples there. A lot of people think the elevator pitch is, you know, what I can do for you. My elevator pitch is what I can do for you. I think most people look at that wrong. If you think of it as a pane of glass, you know, you're actually looking from the wrong pane. If I'm pitching what I can do for you, my elevator pitch should be, what do you need, and how can I help you get it? So it's a more sophisticated version of this little thumbnail sketch of what's happening in what directors call the frame, right? Think about an elevator pitch being 2 minutes long, Michael. The average person speaks at about 150 words per minute. It's only 300 words. You're going to blow through it pretty quickly. So I focus on the 15 minutes before the 15 seconds. If you sit down next to me on an airplane, I don't pitch you. I ask you a bunch of questions about yourself. I like your jacket. Where did you get it? Oh, that book looks interesting. How long have you had that cell phone? It looks like a new version of the iPhone. What's going on with that? And I can learn a lot about you in that 15 minutes. And then finally, the law of reciprocity will honor me, and you'll finally ask me a question And that's when I deliver my 2-minute elevator pitch. And now it'll be customized to suit you because I know so much about you, having invested 15 minutes in you already. So I think a lot of people at these networking events, you probably meet the same people. I'm at a networking event, it just happened a few weeks ago, and I'm talking with somebody and another guy comes up and he says, "Hey, can I give you my card?" That's how he introduced himself, you know. Never offered the conversation to say, "Hey, can I give you my card?" And he thinks it was successful because we both stopped talking and said, "Sure." But it was not a very nutritious exchange. He literally gave us the card, told us what he did, and he said, "Okay, I'll let you get back to your conversation."
Yeah.
Not very graceful.
No, not at all. Here's the secret. Most of those business cards end up in the trash. It's all about relationships. That's what he's missing. It's the relationship that funnels business back and forth between professionals. It's not the business card.
So it's the 15 minutes before the 15 seconds or the 2 minutes. You know, it's if you're going in for the job interview, it's knowing about the company. It's knowing what they're looking for. It's a lot of people that go in for interviews, they don't have the courage to ask questions. I call it getting in the passenger seat. So they get in the passenger seat because they know the interviewer is going to be driving. And yet the interviewer is dying for you to ask a question.
Sure.
Please show some interest in this job, in my company, in our history, you know. And so when you of course want to be polite and answer those questions, but if you're about to pitch, it's going to be a good idea to find out what the other guy is looking for. And so I just love that exchange. I love the interaction. I love the give and take in an elevator pitch. It makes it more organic. It makes it more natural.
That's fantastic. Let's stick with that for a minute. Most people listening to this podcast probably feel intimidated walking into a large networking situation with business professionals, one that you just described earlier. So how can somebody, let's say a college student or a new professional, how can you enter a room with confidence?
Well, a lot of that confidence comes from self-esteem that you were raised with. Maybe you got it from your parents. Maybe you got it from a friendly uncle. Um, it's a hard thing to fake, you know. It really is. I was single for a long time, Mike. I don't talk about this often because I'm in a committed relationship now. The auditions are over.
I love it.
It's fantastic. She's heard me talk about this before. This idea that when I was single, I would always be the point man for my bachelor friends. If we were in a club or a restaurant scenario, it was always me. But you know how guys are, where they'll kind of circle the wagons there at the bar, but they're always looking over the ladies, you know. And everybody wants to be respectful and look for some sort of a graceful way to get into a conversation with single ladies if they're out and if they're interested. And I was always the guy, the point guy.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends marveled at this. They didn't understand how I got this magic superpower, and they wanted it, but they never could get it because they didn't understand it. And I would come back to them, a typical scenario, the guys would be here, desperately wanted to talk to the ladies. Mm-hmm. And I would say, well, let me go see what I can do. And I would join the ladies at the, you know, and eventually the ladies would say, sit down. And my friends are watching this. He's been over there for 4 minutes and now he's been asked to sit down. Oh my gosh, you know. And eventually, of course, I'd get back up and come back and report on what's happening, you know. And they would say, what happened? What happened? And I love this because this scenario just repeated itself over and over again. And my friends would want to know the answer to this basic question. What's your secret? How do you have that confidence that you would go introduce yourself to the ladies? And it's the same superpower that I have now when I walk into a room. And you know, my gig now, Mike, is I might be hired by somebody to go speak in another state. And I don't know anybody in the room when I walk in, including the guy that's hired me, because he hired me online or through email, essentially. I mean, can you imagine that? I don't know how often it happens to your listeners, that you would walk into a room of 300 people. You're totally expected to be there, but you don't know a single person in the room.
Sure.
I mean, think about that for a second. And so the superpower is this. I think everybody wants to meet me. And
That's
I
great.
got that attitude. I think I got a lot of that from my mom and dad when I grew up, but I really got it when I was in the band because I discovered that being the bass player in a pretty cool band, that everyone did want to meet me. The ladies wanted to meet the guys in the band. The guys wanted to meet the guys in the band, and for different reasons sometimes, and it was okay. And once I understood that, I had no fear at all about approaching any table, any combination of gender, any cluster of people, just to say, hey, how's it going tonight? Thanks for coming out. Can we play a song for you? Or we're looking for a place to eat breakfast in the morning. Can you recommend something? Do you mind if I sit down? It was the same exact thing I did when I was single that I did in the band. And anybody can have this. It's just a mindset. Why do you suppose that more people don't have it?
You know, it's a great question. I think that it could be self-esteem issues. That could be one possibility. It could
Yeah.
be that, I don't know, but it's something that I see over and over again. So I like that mindset, I think is great. I also like the matchmaker attitude that you had in, like, let's say that bar scenario that you're describing. I think if you can enter a room and basically say, okay, my job is, maybe I know one person, maybe I know two people in this room of 300. My job today is going to be able to match them up with somebody else. And I think if you can do that successfully and say, okay, Lori needs a job, and I overheard somebody talking about a job opening, so maybe I'm going to match these two people. And if you can do that successfully in a room of 300 people, everyone's going to think that you know everybody in the room, when the reality is you don't. So I like that matchmaker mindset that you have.
Yeah, that's an interesting analogy, matchmaker, and it's also a bit of a chamber of commerce. You know,
Yes.
like I'm like this guy, this connector. I'm I'm the guy, Mike. I don't know how I came to be this person, but I'm always the guy that you think works there.
Right.
If it's a hotel banquet room, people are asking me if they can add more. I was at an event. I was at an event. I stood up and I actually had a drink in my hand and or a glass of wine or something. And somebody at the event said to me, could you have our server come over and bring us more roast beef or whatever he said? Because he thought I was a maitre d' or something. When
Wow.
I'm in hardware stores, they want to know where the ball peen hammers are. I
Right.
don't know how I became this guy. Apparently, I'm so comfortable when I walk into a room, I must work there.
Yeah. I
But
think
that's
that's
I
a
think that's another kind of vibe, if you will, that comes off of people that have this kind of approachability. I guess is a good word. I think
right.
you have.
Well, I appreciate that. I think if you just make yourself helpful, so if you enter a room with 300 people, and maybe you hand out, handouts, right? So documents to each person that's sitting at each table, or you hand out pens, or you just make yourself helpful. I think that's another easy way to get to meet people as well.
Well, for sure. Right? And it doesn't even have to be functional.
Right.
Like you're handing something out, distributing to the tables. You get a chance to pollinate all the tables, right? You must be in an official capacity.
Right.
But imagine, everybody, listeners, imagine you walk into a room and you just pretend, like role play, that you're just gonna be a goodwill ambassador for the first 5 minutes. And everybody you see, you're just gonna ask them one question: are you enjoying yourself this evening? Or how about this one? Did you find the place okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a reasonable question, right? And people will say, they'll start assuming that you work there. It's the most magical thing. I used to do this in restaurants all the time. I
Yeah.
would stop at tables. Are you enjoying yourself? And how's the food tonight? And they would answer me just like I was, the manager. And eventually the other shoe would drop and they would say, well, are you the manager? And I say, no, just want to make sure you're having a good time.
Yeah. Are you enjoying yourself tonight? That is just a fantastic tip that hopefully people
Yeah,
will take
and they
with them.
never, nobody ever held it against me. They would always just have a good laugh because it was such a disarming thing to do.
Yeah.
Total strangers don't show that kind of interest in people,
Yeah.
but it's a wonderful technique.
I love it. And let's say you're meeting a cluster of people at a table. Let's say you're meeting 10 people or 15 people. You know, you use that bar analogy where you walk over to a group of females and you're introducing yourself, and it's just you and a cluster of people. I know that if
Yeah.
you knew their name and you could somehow memorize their name, I think that that certainly helps you quite a bit in terms of building rapport with them. So what's the easiest way to memorize a bunch of people's names when you're meeting them in a cluster like
Well, it's funny that you use the word cluster because I've written about this in books and blog. I get asked this question a lot. It's called, the technique I invented is called cluster imprinting.
that?
So I got the imprinting from, people in it have done imprinting with ducks and horses. I think there's a human type of imprinting that happens. Not a lot of research being done about this yet. But imprinting is this idea that, and it goes back to, say, John Locke back in the day, who said that we're all born a blank slate, or what he called tabula rasa. And that what happens is that mommy, your primary caregiver, writes on your slate in, the heavy duty Sharpie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And dad might write on your slate in a ballpoint pen, and your babysitter writes in a number 2 pencil, and your football coach writes in a crayon or a marker, but mommy's always writing in that heavy duty. That's why the self-esteem and all that superpower confidence comes from mom. Because it gets written in the brainstem versus, say, the neocortex in the front. So the idea of cluster imprinting is I'm going to write your name on my brain. I'm a visual person,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to cluster your name to my brain very quickly, a number of times in very few seconds. So if I meet you and your name's Kathleen, I might say, so let's just count how many times Kathleen's name gets to my brain in a little role play here.
Mm-hmm.
I say, hey, my name's Michael. What's your name? And she says, my name's Kathleen. And I say, Kathleen, what a lovely name. Is that Kathleen with a K or Kathleen with a C? Now her name has come to my brain 4 times in what? 10 seconds, less, 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Totally transparent to Kathleen, by the way. Kathleen, what do you do for work? Well, that's terrific. Hey, Michael, come on over here. I want to introduce you to Kathleen. Kathleen, this is Michael. Michael, Kathleen. Now it's 8 times in 4 minutes, maybe less.
Yeah.
And what do I say to Kathleen before I excuse myself?
Nice to meet you, Kathleen.
Nice to meet you, Kathleen. I am never going to forget Kathleen's name, and now neither will you.
Wow, that's
There's
fantastic.
also something called interval learning or space learning. So once I say goodbye to Kathleen, I'm across the room now. I'm talking with someone else, but I have a chance to look around the room on occasion. And as I'm chatting with this gentleman about the football game last night, I can see Kathleen over here, and I say, that's Kathleen. Oh, there's Stephen over here. I just met him a minute ago. And there's so-and-so. So by doing this type of interval learning, or interval addressing the time, same thing with business cards. I go back to my hotel room or back home, and I pull the cards out of my pocket. Oh yeah, I met Kathleen. And the next morning, 12 hours later, 8 hours later, Kathleen. So it's a fantastic way to cluster those names very quickly, and then have the brain pick up on it in a way that's much more formidable than just, oh, I forgot your name. What is it again? Very disrespectful.
Right. Genius. I absolutely love it. I also love reading your articles. And the last one that I read online talked about the 15 most important words that you can ever use with another person. So I think this is brilliant. Can you tell us more about these 15 most important words?
Yeah. And, full disclosure, there's no research behind this. It's just that I found these 15 words to be very powerful, very important when interacting with other human beings. And the way I rolled it out, I thought it would be less interesting to say there are 15 words, and then here are the 15 words. So the way I roll it out is the 5 most important words, the 4 most important, the 3, and they add up to 15.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do it like this live in front of audiences, I've done this in all 49 states, 5 continents, as you mentioned. It's a really interesting way for people to say, oh, he's onto something here, and you start to see the people get out pens and stuff to try to write it down. And then of course I just route them to the YouTube video. And although people can watch this video and share it, I'm sure, and you'd like them to do that, if they go to YouTube and search my full name, Michael Angelo Caruso, and then 15 words, the video will come up. but I'll do it for you here. Thank you for asking. The 5 most important words you can ever use with another person are, I am proud of you. And the reason this is a very powerful word combination, Mike, is because people like to be told that someone's proud of them. I think it's easier to say I'm proud of you to younger people, in particular kids, but that's just our hang up in society. I think you're going to get all kinds of bonus points if you can learn how to say I'm proud of you up the org chart.
Yep.
So everybody likes to hear I'm proud of you, and I've become really good at saying it to total strangers.
Wow.
Because if you're sincere and it's appropriate, I'm proud of you. I mean, they'll sign for it like a FedEx package. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The 4 most powerful words are, what is your opinion, or what do you think? And again, we're now actually, we're gone from the information age. We're now in something called the experiential age. And if you think back a few years, in the information age, everybody had access to the same information. So there was no being smarter than anybody else, right? So we became, for a little while there, we were embarrassed if we didn't know stuff. But now everybody has access to the same information. So now it's really about finding out what somebody thinks. And unfortunately, a lot of people think it's a sign of weakness if you ask somebody their opinion. It implies that you don't have an opinion, or that you don't know what to do. And yet good, strong leaders know to ask their team, even their subordinates, what do you think we should do with this? I'm interested in your opinion. I mean, mind you, I might have already made up my mind about what to do, but I'm still interested in what you think. And I think it goes a long way to keeping those relationships strong.
Very, very good.
The 3 most powerful words are, will you please? Because etiquette never goes out of style. The 2 most powerful words in English are thank you. And the number 1 most powerful word you can ever use with another person is?
Please.
Your name?
Your name. Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
You were prescient about asking me that question before we did this. So when you know somebody's name and you can remember it, and you can use it in what grammarians call an embedded phrase. So I might say, the embedded phrase, the name can come at the beginning or the end of the phrase. So I can say, Michael, comma, do you think you can get this done by Friday? Or I can say, do you think you can get this done by Friday, Michael? Do you think you can get this done by Friday, comma, Michael? And one of them sounds fraternal, but the other one sounds paternal. So fraternal is I'm a peer or an advocate asking, can you do it by Friday? And the other one sounds a little heavier, almost like you're going to be answering to me, or you should be answering to me. Michael, do you think that you can get this done by Friday? Or do you think you can get this done by Friday, Michael?
Right. I like the second option.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's
so those
great.
Are the 50.
I think that's fantastic. I talk about that all the time with recruitment. And I say that, hey, listen, your name is your favorite word in the English language. So if you're trying to recruit somebody into your organization, you should A, take the time to remember their name using some of those tricks that you talked about earlier, but B, use it often because they love hearing it. And I remember when I joined my fraternity, that was one of the things that I was looking for because I felt very disconnected from the 30,000 students that went to my university. But as soon as the fraternity and specific people in this group, this small group of people started using my name, I felt like I had a home because they took the time to get to know me and they used my name. It's such a basic thing.
That's exactly how it works. And I think Dale Carnegie was the first one to come up with this theory that a person's name is the sweetest sound, that they can hear. Carnegie was How to Win Friends and Influence People for you youngsters listening today.
That's fantastic. The other problem that I see within college campuses is student apathy. It's a real problem. A lot of organizations have people that belong to the organization, but for whatever reason, they're just not engaged. And the leaders are frustrated because they won't do anything. So how can student leaders get other students to do stuff?
Well, I think apathy is a problem everywhere, actually. We're coming up on an election year. We'll be frustrated yet again at how few people actually vote in the election. I think a lot of service organizations are suffering in membership because giving back, it doesn't have that kind of public patina that it used to have. People are giving back in different ways. I think the magic thing for getting people to interact with you is you have to find a way to find that what we call in sales, again, because I do presentation skills, I do a lot of sales training, is addressing people's hot buttons. You know, what is it that's important to them? What are these psychological gambits that you can use to capture someone's attention and then hold it? Easy tricks like, you know, if someone's on their cell phone, an easy trick to get somebody to stop using their cell phone and you're engaging with them is to stop talking. You know, the voice that keeps coming at them, and so but if you stop talking, it creates a vacuum, and they actually stop texting when you stop talking. It's almost counterintuitive,
right,
that you would stop sending a signal and then get their attention, but it's true. Another technique in sales that we use is, you know, people have their arms crossed or they're otherwise, you know, putting up the firewall. And so the idea is to, and this is a very visual, it's a little heavy-handed, but it'll give you the visual of what's actually happening here. Is that I have my arms crossed, I'm not open to you. But if you hand me literature, if you drop it in front of me, I can just look at it. I don't have to actually uncross my arms. But if you make me take it from you, rather than put it in front of me, you make me take it from you, you have to uncross your arms. Now that's like I say, it's a rather graphic visual representation, but you can use that as kind of a template to keep people's attention and keep them engaged. Open questions, for example, versus closed questions. They're called non-binary questions versus binary questions. Mm-hmm. And even in the sales process, I talk about using something called the binary question sandwich, where you would open the dialogue with yes or no questions, then enter conversational type questions, because that's where it's really difficult to keep people in tune with you. Mm-hmm. And then you go back to binary questions again for the close. So by sequencing the questions, engagement, using their name, and you know, just being interested in the other person is very useful. I also bop between the topic at hand and other things. Movies, sports. I don't mind leaving this conversation to get your attention and then coming back to the conversation again if that's going to be useful to both of us.
Right.
So
those are some great tips. I love it. I also know that you're a lifetime Rotary guy. And as a matter of fact, that's how we first met back in the day. I actually saw you speak at a Rotary conference. So my question to you is, why is Rotary so important to you? I love that that's the case, but I need to know, why is it so important to
you? I tell people that Rotary has become my church in a way. It's become something that allows me to see that there's more important things in the world than just me. This idea of giving back to people whose name I may never know. Mm-hmm. That's a powerful thing, man. Rotary right now is working on a very long, protracted, frustrating polio eradication campaign. And the feeling that I have that I'm actually contributing to the eradication of a disease, Mike, only the second time in the world's history that a disease has been kicked off planet Earth, makes me feel good about myself. You know, I'm not a particularly religious person, but to go to my Rotary Club meeting 1 hour a week and put money in their offertory basket, you know, and pay homage to something bigger than me, it is kind of like church for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of spiritual give back, that kind of, I don't know. It's so special to me, you know. It's not work. It's not Michael Caruso. It's not even my family directly. It's just it's a kind of interface with humankind that I wouldn't have in any other way, and it's enriched my life in ways I can't even tell you. You're a Rotarian too. You know this. I have friends that I would never, ever hang around. This is going to sound terrible. I have friends I would never hang around with under any other condition. 80-year-old guys, 20-year-old rotor actors, you know. But because we have this connective tissue through Rotary, we have something in common, and it makes my life so much better. And maybe a longer answer than what you were looking for. I think everybody should try to find something like this in their life. It's so super easy to get up and twice a year go do something for charity, and then you say you give back. Mm-hmm. But to do it in a systematic, routinized way, weekly, and do that over a period of life, a period of the span of your life. I don't know, 25 years in Rotary now. Mm-hmm. And some of my Rotary friends, these people I would never hang around with under any other conditions, are my most long-term friends.
Yeah.
And now lifelong friends. It's the most amazing thing. I never dreamed when I got into the organization that my longest term friends would be Rotarians.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you stick with something.
Yeah, I feel the same exact way. I feel like Rotary has been such a gift in my life. And I say this all the time to crowds when I'm at Rotary conferences. I say that I'll never be able to repay everything that I've taken from Rotary, in the sense that now I'm dedicated to doing community service. Now I have lifelong friendships that have enriched my life in so many ways that I can't even begin to explain to the audience, but it's had such a ripple effect in my life that I'm so grateful for that gift. I really believe it's a gift that I've been given. And so my job now in terms of membership, being district membership chair, is to enable somebody else in the district to join a club and get the same benefits that I got. That's the only reason why I volunteer and do all the things that I do. I'm trying to pay it forward. I don't know how else to pay back everything that I've received from Rotary, but I hope that I can help somebody else get the same gift that I got.
The Beatles have a channel on Sirius Radio now. And so I've been binging on Beatles and Billy Joel. That's where I came up, you know. And they have a couplet in one of their songs says, the love you take is equal to the love you make, right? Did I get the order right?
I think you did.
We always make the love first and then we take it back, right? So you give, you get what you give, right? And it's this little equation is as old as Mother Nature, right? The pendulum swings this way and then it swings this way. The tide goes in, the tide comes out. You get what you give. And it's absolutely true. And so my life is richer because I found a way to give back. Yours, the same thing.
Same thing.
And I know your audience, a lot of them are people just, you know, they're getting started in life and they're trying to figure out life's rhythm. Mm-hmm. And I can't urge you enough to look into things like Rotaract or Rotary or something that's going to allow you to just to help others, because you get so much more from the package.
Yeah, I agree with that. And fraternity and sorority is giving back quite a bit as well. So I know many of our listeners are affiliated with a fraternity or sorority, and that's a big part of who they are. And that's another reason why I believe in fraternity and sorority, is because it does enable people within colleges to start giving back and get into those habits. Certainly Rotaract and Rotary are all fantastic things once we graduate and we get to that point, and I'd highly encourage it. So all great stuff, all great stuff. What Michael, I know you're in the Detroit area, so I was curious, if I were to have a speaking engagement in Detroit, what restaurant should I be going to in order to get some great food, and what do you think I should order?
I think you should order what you like, man.
I'm looking for advice.
You ever sit down and the person got the menu and they're looking at you the menu and they go to the server. They've never met the server before. They go, I can't decide between the chicken and the beef. What do you like? And the server says, I like the chicken. And the guy goes, oh, they don't have the chicken. Like, what kind of benchmark is that? This total stranger, I don't even do that with movies, let alone with meals. I need to know more about your palate and what you care for. But I will point you towards some restaurants.
All right.
Downtown, if you're in the downtown area, Chuck Muir's is an old staple down there. There's a great and it's a great view of the Detroit River. You're looking at Windsor now. Mm-hmm. Great Barbet is Windsor, Canada, is actually south of Detroit. So the Barbet is Canada north or south of Detroit? And of course, because of the way the mitten's set up, Windsor kind of slips in underneath Detroit. So you drive south from Detroit to get into Windsor.
Right.
So collect that $5 bet anytime. So if you're downtown, you want a view of Windsor, Canada to the south, Chuck Mears. There's a great beef place downtown called Prime and Proper. Renee and I can't wait to go to a place called Lady of the House. Fantastic place. If you're a foodie, I like to go to those places that are a little bit off the radar, you know. Same thing when I travel. If all the other tourists are doing it, it's probably not going to be for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my palate, if you will.
I love it. Those are some great suggestions. As a foodie, I identify with that. I love it. Can't wait to have dinner with you guys. Once I get to Detroit, you better believe I'm going to be getting in touch with you so we can make that happen. So we have a big audience here. What's that?
You're in Franklin?
I am.
Where? So I'm coming to, we got to hook up a dinner. I'm coming to Chattanooga in March. You know that.
Sure.
And we're going to make something happen, okay?
Let's do that. I'd love to do it. My wife and I would love to take you out. We'll make that happen. It sounds really good. Okay. So we have a big audience here. Let's say they love what you have to say here today. I'm sure they do because I'm a big fan of yours. What are the different ways that people that are listening here today, how can they connect with you for more information about your speaking and coaching services? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, let's do two free, easy things. The first way is, I assume they like video and they like learning and connecting with people via video. I have a YouTube channel. So it's Michael Angelo Caruso on YouTube. You'd click the silver bell on YouTube and be notified then of new videos as they're posted. What will you see? Things, leadership tips, sales tips. I do a lot of reports from the road, travel stuff. So it's a pretty cool channel. It's alive and vital. And of course, you can unsubscribe at any time. The other idea is I have on Facebook a group called Present Like a Pro. This is for anybody that does presentations of any kind. I always say everything is a presentation. Your next job interview. If you're working with a team of any kind, if you're leading the team, you're presenting to the team. If you're just on the team, you're being asked to present to the team. And you'll get ongoing presentation tips in the Present Like a Pro group on Facebook. How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Thank you to the audience as well for joining us. Please make sure you share this presentation, this video, with anybody else that you think might be interested in some of the things that Michael was talking about here today. He's a great resource. If you have questions, I do encourage you, reach out to him on Facebook, in the Facebook group. Check out his YouTube videos. I promise you, you're going to learn something new. And Michael, what can I say, man? I'm just looking forward to the next time we get together.
My pleasure, Mike. Thank you for having me on today.
Of course, it's my pleasure. And we'll see you on the next episode of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.